Hi, my name is Alexandra Fireborn. I had a lot of problems with Screen-O-Matic, so I'm just doing this by hand, so hopefully that's okay. Okay, this is my presentation on brain building, serve, and return, both with infants and toddlers. My name is Alexandra Fireborn, and this is for my CE 413, Supporting Social and Emotional Development in Young Children class. The purpose of this assignment was to explore and learn the different concepts and strategies to encourage brain building within children in early childhood, infancy, and toddlerhood using the steps in serve and return. Pretty self-explanatory, but that just explains it. So what is brain building and serve and return? Brain building is the process of building the connections and the relationships to encourage brain growth in children. There has been a significant amount of research and studies showing the positive impact on children's brains and the connections that we build by creating nurturing and supportive environments and interactions for them. Serve and return consists of 5 concepts that work to promote the brain building that we just talked about in infants and toddlers. So the first step is share the focus. Second step is support and encourage. The third step is to name it. Fourth is taking turns or going back and forth. And 5 is practicing endings and beginnings. Characteristics of an infant and toddler's emotional and social development. These are just a couple images that I found on Google Images that I thought were very interesting and show that it's all kind of interconnected of these different characteristics. So we have social awareness, relationship skills, decision making, nurturing and attachment, that relationship with the caregiver and the child, and both with the caregiver's knowledge of child development and how that greatly impacts both the infants and toddlers' emotional and social development and learning. Okay, so step 1 is share the focus. This first step is when we are showing interest in what the child or children are looking at or interacting with. This can mean getting down on their level or really just paying attention to what they are focusing on in the moment and sharing in the focus. That's why it's called sharing the focus. So with an infant, in my example that we talked about, is looking at a toy or looking at a bug or something that we see. Both the adult and infant are looking at said object or thing. And with a toddler, in this next example, they are looking outside the window together. So I'll go to the next one. So again, in this first photo, we see that the woman is sharing focus with the infant. They're both playing and interacting with the same toy. So they are sharing the focus on that same toy. In this bottom corner in the photo, the woman is sharing the focus with the toddler. They are both looking at the moth on the ground, and she's actually pointing to it, showing both physically and verbally and that she is sharing the focus with that child. In this other photo, both the adult and the toddler are sharing the focus. They're looking outside the window. They're looking what is happening. They are both engaged in the same activity. This can continue on, and they can name it. They can talk about what they see outside, and it kind of just builds on sharing the focus had she not been paying attention. The second one is support and encourage. This can be done in many different ways, but we are reinforcing and supporting the students in their interests and in their creativity. So that's offering encouraging words that helps build their self-esteem, or creating a space just where they can feel safe to explore their environment and grow in their interests. So for an infant, that could be offering words of praise, support in whatever they're working on. A lot of times with infants, they like to explore, and so encouraging that curiosity in them exploring their environment. And for a child, such as a toddler, this can be encouragement, verbal encouragement. You can say, "Great job, thank you." This works as well for infants, but for toddlers, they are making those connections of, okay, I did something good, and they're encouraged in that way. So in this first photo, the adult is clapping for the child and encouraging them to continue. They could be saying, "Great job, that's so nice." Basically just positive affirmations. In the next one, the adult is clapping for the child, same way, and encouraging them, probably giving them verbal encouragement about stacking the toys and things like that. The third step is name it. This is when we can verbally explain what is around us and in our environment. This is what we're doing, what we're seeing, what we're feeling. By giving the children the words of what the objects are around them, they will be able to have the language to use later and build those connections with their environment. So with a toddler, naming it is so important because that's when they are building those communication skills and building the connections on what the things are around them, and that these things that are around them, they have words, and those words have meaning, and the meaning is that thing. So naming what you're looking at, what you're playing with is super important. For an infant, identifying words and objects, naming what's in front of them, it really helps to for them to build those connections as well. So when we say a word, they are understanding what we are saying. So in these examples in the first photo, the adult is sharing focus and naming what they are looking at. So they're looking at the moth. They're sharing the focus. And the child is actually able to repeat and use the correct word to describe the animal. So in this second photo, the child is able to recall the word for bird and uses it appropriately. In this photo, the adult is identifying words and objects for the infant and naming what is in front of her. Just like we talked about, when the children have those words to communicate later, they can build those connections so much faster. Okay, step 4, taking turns back and forth. The fourth step is taking turns. So this is where there's a two-sided interaction, and both parties are going back and forth, communicating with each other, interacting with each other. Both sides wait patiently for the other person to finish speaking before it is their turn to speak. That's something that attempt to teach. This is so both parties can feel seen and heard, and that their words and feelings have meaning and are valued, and that their feelings are validated. So with an infant, the adult and child they're going back and forth. They're interacting with each other. The child will wait patiently. The child listens to the adult. The adult listens to maybe not words, but signals or sounds, and waits patiently for them before continuing on. With a toddler, it's a little different because the toddler is a lot more verbal. So the adult and child are going back and forth, interacting with each other, and the adult will wait patiently again. So in this picture here, in this first photo, the adult and infant are going back and forth, interacting with each other. So it looks like the adult is talking and the baby is interested. In the second photo, the adult is waiting patiently for the toddler to finish speaking. This shows self-control and teaches self-control, and shows that it's the child's turn to talk, and then when the child is done, it will be the adult's turn to talk. In the last photo, the child is showing that they can wait and take turns by waiting patiently for the adult to finish speaking before they speak. So that shows self-control. And it also builds self-esteem, because if the child feels like you're waiting for them to finish talking, it's as if their words are meaningful, and that really helps build their self-esteem and confidence in speaking and in speaking up for themselves. Step 5 is practicing endings and beginnings. This is when we watch for signals and routines that the child is ready to move on to the next activity, and support their curiosity of their environment by letting the student lead those transitions. So endings and beginnings for infants, following to the next activity. This is sharing the focus and moving on with them, and allowing the freedom to move on to the next activity. Endings and beginnings for toddlers. This is teaching and practicing endings and beginnings. There's a variety of different ways that we can teach endings and beginnings. This could be still allowing it to be student-led, but showing students that, before we eat, we wash our hands. There's that happens in the beginning of, snack time. Or if we're reading a book, we're showing that there's a title page and an end page, and we begin at the beginning and we end at the end. And when the story is over, we can begin again, or we can move on to the next book or the next activity. So teaching and practicing these endings and beginnings through routines that students can connect with. It's not a random routine. It's something that is normal. So in this photo, the adult has followed the child-led activity and gone from one activity to the other. We have some blocks or Legos in the bottom corner, and the child looks kind of like they're doing some type of arts and crafts project, and they're moving on. And the child could even be saying, if they're old enough, they could say, I'm done and I want to move on. In the middle photo, the adult is taking the infant's lead and sharing the focus by moving on to the next activity that the infant is interested in. So they could have been playing with the ball, and the child's focus could have been taken away, and they would like to go to the next activity. And so the adult is moving along with them. Again, this is kind of going back to what I said earlier. Another way that we can practice endings and beginnings is through working on activities where there is a clear ending and beginning that the students can connect with. In conclusion, these are just some reflection questions. So how to improve my serve and return infants with infants and toddlers now. So from what I have learned through these concepts, I think that I can improve on letting the student be in the lead and allowing them to build their own self-esteem and be creative. I think so many times we think of everything that we need to get done or the mess that they're making, but allowing the student to be creative and create new interactions and new memories and connections that they can build on is so much more important than anything that I could have had planned. How can you use this information in your interactions with caregivers who work with infants and toddlers? So all of this information has really helped me understand the way that a child thinks and responds to their outside environment. I definitely will be more in tune with the signals and ways that the child is communicating with me, and the signals that they are presenting, and encourage them to continue in their interactions and to again, not rush through things like the back and forth. There's the part of waiting patiently. We don't need to rush the interaction. We don't need to rush anything. Really just, I think overall, having it be teacher supported but student led. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and thank you.